get going, Mr. Matthews. We'll start. Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, very warm welcome to each one of you for another edition of our online program this evening. We are indeed privileged and honored to bring you series of programs week after week in type way to say day after day. Almost we bring in about 20 to 25 programs in a month, and your encouragement, what really inspires you to bring some outstanding speakers. Because your inspiration, we are getting some outstanding speakers to come and speak in a way platform. So we are indeed delighted and also blessed to have so many outstanding speakers. One such event is happening this evening. Before I come to this evening event, let me briefly take a minute to tell you what's happening in MMA, so that if you have missed by any chance your mail in the inbox, note down some of the important program you can think, because we offer a bouquet of program. You can pick and choose which you want to participate, and if you do not want to participate live, always watch them. Our recordings are available for next few years in all the social media portals. Like tomorrow, 16th of September, we have a branding strategy for MSMEs. It's very important subject. We do quite a bit of work on this area. Mona Rajaram, she will be talking to us. She's a founder of Beautiful Times. Then on Thursday, 23rd September, another again interesting event, starting and growing a business. Rajesh Subramaniam is the Chief Executive Officer, founder of Embed UR Systems, one of the most successful organization, successful venture, both India and USA. Is going to be talking to us. Mr. Balraman, past president of MMA and former MD of Pons, will be chairing this session. Then on 24th, again, not to be missed event, we are celebrating World Sustainable Days on 25th of September. A day before, we are having a conclave on the theme Sustainable Development Goals marching towards global India. Because all our events, what you do, each one of you should also understand SDG is very important subject. If you have to grow and really attain what exactly we want to do, maybe Prime Minister Modi's dream out $5 trillion economy, I think we have to focus on this area. We got again outstanding panelists, Mr. Vikram Kapoor, Additional Chief Secretary from Government of Tamil Nadu. Then Pradeep is the head of corporate sustainability from Laughter and Tobro. Then Pradeep, then Sujata, she's the head of Government Sustainable Development Initiative from Government of Tamil Nadu. Then Rajinish Chopra is a global head of business sustainable development goals from VA Tech Wabag, and Krishna Swamy is a CSR Spark. And Aisha Sonori, she's from one of the area where quite a bit of sustainable workers from Ambur. Then we also have Lingam Prabhakar. She is the head of CSR from ITC Limited. So we got an outstanding panelists. You want to know all about CSR, which is really very important for many of the NGOs to work together to bring the best in you and best utilize the best way the funds are made available to CSR. What is Sustainable Development Goal means, and what the Government of Tamil Nadu is doing. I urge upon you to join us. It's from 10 to 1 at MMA Management Center. It's a hybrid event. Join us. You can meet, network people. I assure you excellent lunch and also food for thought, food for stomach as well. Then on Monday, the 27th, we have a lecture by Women Business Forum. Again, we have an outstanding speaker, Srividya. She's the CEO of Brio Integrated Services, very powerful woman entrepreneur, managing 4,000 strong forces of thing, and predominantly men. And you must come and listen to her success story as a businesswoman. Then on the 28th, we have a discussion on a very important book written by Sangeeta Sumesh. I think she'll be joining us. To join us on 28th, we have again an excellent panel. Mafai Pondiarajan, former minister, will be joining us along with Ramraj, founder of SIFI, and also C.K. Ranganathan will be sending us a message. He's chairman managing director. So another minute, we also lined up program till November. I'm not going to give you details of the program. We have a conclave on cybersecurity. We have an endowment lecture where the chief of Alliance Air is coming and talking to us. Kiran Karnik, former head of NASCOM, is going to be coming and talking to us along with Chandilya, who is Aisher chairman, and Cabin Care Award Function, which we do jointly with the Cabin Care. Is the national award function. Will be live on air in one of the national televisions, Republic TV, and we have got some outstanding identifiers, some outstanding innovation. Then we also have a speaker from DRGO. So we have a fantastic event lined up. Now coming back to today's event, we are indeed privileged, thanks to Sweta for choosing MMA, and also the author Matthew. The theme of the book on which we are going to do a discussion this evening is Attention Factory, and the story of TikTok. And TikTok means everybody is getting rekindled to a thing. Oh my God, the TikTok is back again. But you're not back again for you to play around, it's back again for you to kindle your thought process. What the technology began and how it has really made work. And we got outstanding panelists, three outstanding panelists. Besides the author, we also have two more panelists, which I'll be introducing them because I can tell you, you're all privileged. And at least I'll walk miles to listen to them because they're truly a thought leaders in the subject which is going to be discussed this evening. Now, I take privilege to welcome all the viewers watching the program, all those who are joined live on our Zoom and also live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and also our live webinar. As usual, if you have any questions relevant to the subject what we are discussing today, please type it out on the screen, flashed on the screen, the number, mobile number, you can send by WhatsApp. All those who are in the chat box, please type your question, and I request you to only address the question to the what is relevant to the subject being discussed today, so that the authors and both the speakers, panelists have agreed to respond to all your questions. So you don't worry anything about the subject. They are the expert. So whatever you have a doubt, it's complimentary classes. You can take it as get it clarified everything, and later on you can get connected with them. That means the format of the program this evening would be, I'll have the privilege of introducing all the three panelists for this evening, including the author. Thereafter, we officially launch the book, and thereafter the discussion, Matthew will share his insights for a few minutes, maybe about 15-20 minutes. Then Naru and Kruba will chip in and share their views and interact with the author. It'll be a fireside chat mode. So then thereafter, we'll open it to the all the participants to respond to the question. Well, let me have the privilege of introducing the author of the book, Matthew. Matthew Brennan is author, international speaker. And Matthew Brennan is author, international speaker, and recognized speaker who specializes in Chinese mobile internet technology and innovation. His opinions have featured across global media, including Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, The Economist, BBC, the Financial Times, and Forbes. I think we did not go anything beyond this to get recognized. Matthew has delivered a number of lessons in major organizations, including Google, Walmart, Visa, LinkedIn, Boston Consulting Group, and many more. Originally from London, Matthew speaks fluent Mandarin, Chinese, and having been based in mainland China for 16 years. And many congratulations, Matthew, for writing a brilliant book. And very warm welcome to you. We're all eagerly waiting to hearing your thought-provoking views this evening. Very warm welcome to you. Let me have the privilege of introducing a good friend of ours, a well-wisher of MMA. You don't have to know him because he's been in MMA for many occasions. Kripa Shankar is CEO of Business Blogging, founder, director of F5 Technologies, and he has over 24 years of experience in internet space, health, craft, digital strategies, and of large firms. He has delivered over 700 skill talks, conferences, corporate events, and across 21 countries. He has authored 5 books and has been a technology columnist in newspapers. Kripa has been teaching 18 years and is a professor of digital marketing. You can make the picture what is I'm showing in the profile, what you're going to see him. He has really turned out to be a professor. I can assure you, Kripa. Very warm welcome to Kripa. It's a pleasure to have you with us this evening. Let me introduce another distinguished panel for this evening is Naru Radhakrishnan. He's an independent consultant. He started a career as a brand manager with the Indian FMCG Cabin Care and joined in 1994 and continually advanced the thing. And the key highlights of his career was setting up a media purchase, media planning, and media operations, and many more, including digital migration of Procter & Gamble in Greater China and involvement of the rest of the Asia. And his current work includes Facebook, Google, industry bodies like MMA. I was so happy that he was part of MMA. Then to my disappointment, he's not Madras Management Association, he's a Mobile Manufacturer Association. Anyway, now he's part of MMA. So you will now code MMA also in future. Okay. The speaker at MMA platforms. And outside the work, he's a marathoner, a long distance biker. And those who always believe in fitness and active. One which is not really mentioned in the book is he closely work with J. Krishnamurti Foundation, which bring in so much of changes in the lives of so many people around the world. Now, let me, the most awaited time, what we're all looking forward to officially launch the book. And I urge upon you, it's a must read for each one of you. Do buy a copy of the books available online. Let me have the privilege of launch his book for the privilege. Wherever, whichever place on you can clap on our behalf so that we'll wish all the very best to Matthew. Yes, this is what the book, and it's available in all the leading. Thank you. Many congratulations, Matthew, Renan, and it's indeed a lovely book, and we're privileged to host this event this evening. Over to you, Matthew, for sharing your insights, and thereafter we request other panelists to join in. We are looking for a excellent, wonderful conversation this evening. Over to you, Matthew. You unmute yourself, Matthew. Yeah, thank you.
I had myself on mute. That's a great way to start, isn't it? No, thank you for the the wonderful introduction there. I feel it's too much really, but anyway. So for the next 15 minutes or so, if the idea is for this session, I can just introduce some ideas of the book, I guess, right, and some give you some background on why and how I wrote this and why I feel it's an important topic. And perhaps add some extra bits that you should be getting in the book, but I can give you some more. I've got my copy here as well. By the way, Westland, I think, just did a fantastic job. I'm just so happy with how it looks in terms of the printing and the quality there. So thank you to Westland and the publishers there. I just want to squeeze that in. So the book itself, it's about it's asking three questions, really. Why ByteDance, right? So why ByteDance is the company behind TikTok, right? So it's a Chinese company. So why ByteDance, which means why is TikTok coming from China, right? So that's a key question. You think about this, all of the global, big, world famous apps and internet services that people use, the vast majority of them are American. Right? They come from Silicon Valley, the Facebooks, the Googles. But this one, TikTok, it actually comes from China, and that's kind of a first, right? For a really big global breakout hit like this to come from China. So the first reason to sort of read this book, and the first question that I want to answer is, give you the backstory, the history on that, and understand why was that? Why was it not Silicon Valley, and why was this coming from China? Why was ByteDance the company to make TikTok? And it's actually very logical. If you break it down, and if you know the history and you know the founder, Zhang Yimin, and the insights that he had at the beginning of the company, which was about recommendation. It was about the power of AI, because ByteDance is essentially an AI company, we could say. It's a company where one of the core competencies, what it's famous for, at least in its home market of China, is recommendation engine. And that's something we talk about a lot. It's really interesting, actually, like TikTok, especially in the Indian market, it's kind of known for this sort of lowbrow content, right? It resonated very strongly across sort of many rural areas. And people felt that the content was kind of, trashy, we could say, lots of dancing, lots of singing, lots of silly comedy. So that's the sort of content part of it. But then the technology behind the platform is just so advanced and actually really cutting edge. And so there's an interesting juxtaposition there, right, between the sort of content that most people, at least originally, would associate with the platform, and the early content formats that were popular to begin with, and then the sort of high-tech back end that most of the users don't see. But actually, that part's really important, and that's actually the engine that's kind of driving the growth. But it's not just the technology, but that's certainly a very important part. So why ByteDance? Why TikTok? So TikTok wasn't the first short video application, right? When we talk about short video as a format, actually there was a predecessor to TikTok globally, and that was Musical.ly, which you may or may not be familiar with. But Musical.ly, most of the users of Musical.ly were teenagers. Teenagers in North America and preteens as well, also in Europe. And so even before Musical.ly, there was another platform called Mindy in France that we go into in the book. So actually the user experience that today we know as TikTok, that we know today as short video, which is a full screen vertical video with this swipe up motion that you make and the music driven content discovery. Actually, in the book, we traced back the history of that and see that it actually we can say this user experience was actually invented, if we can use such a word, in France, which I totally did not expect from doing when I started writing this book. Just the research led us down that rabbit hole. And so we talk about the different stages, the evolution of this experience that today, even in the India market where, TikTok's not there anymore, but we have Reels on Instagram, we have YouTube Shorts, and I'm sure there's local competitors in the market as well. So the actual format of short video is going to be with us, even if it's not TikTok, if it's not ByteDance. Short video is very powerful, and it's something that's going to be with us for a long time. And so, why short video? What makes that so compelling? Why is that such a powerful format? I think that's something we really dive into in the book as well. It links together with the technology. Actually, if I bring it back to the technology aspect and just talk about one interesting aspect here. Why is the technology so powerful for something like TikTok? Why is this? Why is it so addictive? Right? Why have they been able to create this system where it can learn your content preferences so well? Part of it is because short video is so short. If you think about if you use something like Netflix, right? On Netflix, you might spend 45 minutes. And in that, watch a Game of Thrones. In that time, you simply select the episode when you open up the platform, and then you watch. And during that time, you don't touch the screen, right? You don't interact. You just watch the episode. And so, in that 45 minutes, Netflix really isn't learning much about you. It's a very passive experience for long form content, high PGC content, right? These platforms. If you could do something like YouTube in that same time period, let's say 45 minutes, YouTube, you might be able to consume perhaps 10 pieces of content, let's say. And so you've actually 10 times you've allowed YouTube to learn about your content preferences and understand you better. You've given them some points to train their neural networks for their systems to understand you. Whereas on a platform like TikTok with short form video, in that same time period, you can consume perhaps well over 100, maybe even 200 or more unique pieces of content. And so they've got 200, say, opportunities to learn about you for their systems to understand what you like and what you don't like. And due to the user experience, it's actually very simple. And it's actually very clear in terms of training out an algorithm to understand you. Because when you have that full screen experience, that very immersive video, it essentially you can do two things. You can either watch it, which means you like it, or you swipe, which means you don't. And yes, there's other things you can do where you can like and you can comment and those other things, but predominantly those are the two things that people end up doing for each individual piece of content. And so these are very strong signals which you can use to actually discover content preferences. So the short form nature of the content is very powerful in terms of training algorithms and neural networks to understand what you like and what you don't like. So that's definitely one aspect. I think another aspect of it is also on platforms like TikTok, in terms of the content ecosystem. It's actually a very different dynamic, right? Where as a creator, you're actually encouraged to copy. You're encouraged to imitate others. And that's very different psychology from other platforms where, that might be looked down upon, where people want originality. And if you start copying other people, you'll be quickly called out. But on TikTok, it's actually okay to do that. And what you end up doing, what a lot of people end up doing, is jumping on the trend, right? They end up remixing other people's content or doing their own version of a challenge or something that's trending on the platform. So one of the really big things that TikTok did, and other, the other versions of TikTok are following in this way, is that it lowered the barrier to content creation. This is such an important context thing to understand of why this is so successful and why it's not going away regardless of what company is bringing it to you, is that essentially TikTok lowered the barrier to content creation. If you think about YouTube, if you want to run a successful YouTube channel and you want to be a YouTube creator, what is the barrier there? What do you need to do? It's actually pretty high when you think about it. You need to edit content, right? You'll need to have a professional editing software to do that. You may need to learn how to do that, and you'll have to have a PC to do that, and then you'll have to create some very high quality content. Typically, the barrier to becoming popular on YouTube is quite high because the supply of content is vast, and it's very mature platform. Whereas on TikTok, you don't need any editing software. Everything's built into the app. It's very intuitive as a user. And then there's also a barrier of creativity. What do I create? I want to be famous. Lots of people want to be famous online. That's quite common. But what do I actually do on my videos? That's a big barrier. Is creativity, right? And most people aren't that creative, and most people are, certainly when they start, can be very intimidated by the process. But on TikTok, it's very easy. Every day there's new filters, right? And the filter completely solves the problem of creating an engaging video. The filter itself is engaging. So actually the user doesn't need to do much, as long as the filter is interesting. There's challenges every day, right? There's things that are trending on the platform. With a challenge, all you need to do is copy, right? Do your own version. If it's a dance, you just mimic the dance and put your own twist on it. If it's a song, you mime the song. So that completely solves the creativity problem, and there's motivation problem as well, right? So because the speed at which content trends on the platform goes up and becomes popular, but then the next day something else is popular, as a creator or potential creator, you need to jump on the trend while it's hot, when something's going up. So that solves the motivation problem as well. Why do you need to create content now? So all of these issues have been solved by TikTok. So it's on the there's basically two aspects to it: the content side and the technology side combined together. Now, there's also aspects of ByteDance. In India, they had some very successful programs where they would actually have operations teams. This is something very big in Chinese internet operations. They're very good at it. But essentially what that means is, hiring lots of people who actually go out and help creators, this is not technical work. This is very human work, where they would actually go out and work with influencers or manage creators and pay people as well to create content and sort of manually foster an ecosystem. This is something Silicon Valley companies usually don't do. They're very data-driven, and they're very technical, and they're sort of very hands-off with management of ecosystems, whereas Chinese companies are much more hands-on. They don't mind getting their hands dirty and doing things that don't scale. So that would be definitely a lesson, I think, for Indian companies, or any companies around the world that are looking to build internet products. One of the big lessons from China is the importance of content operations. Okay, so I'll stop here. I think those are some of the key lessons, I think, from the book. But I think I've spoken enough for now, and we can pass it off to our awesome guests to kick off a conversation. Hopefully, I'll pass it back to you, Captain.
What you Naru? You're unmute again. I think the most used word in internet today is unmute.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Thank you.
Matthew.
I wasn't keeping track of time there. I hope that was okay.
I think it's a ByteDance trait. Both Matthew and I muted ourselves. Anyway, okay. Firstly, thank you so much for inviting me here. Matthew, fantastic book, and congratulations to you on this eventful day when we are launching it. I must say I'm especially happy to be here today because of two reasons. Okay. One is the fact that this gave me the opportunity to reflect upon my own experiences as a former employee of ByteDance as I was going through the book. Okay, that was a great experience because many things Matthew talked about, internally we discussed, we tossed around, that kind of stuff. It was a great reflection point. So that was one. And the second important thing is, again, my own personal experiences living in China from 2006 all the way to 2018, the time period Matthew has liberally referenced. And I also work very closely with the organization that Matthew has referenced in his book, okay, including the famous BAT organization. And I have a fairly a decent ring, I wouldn't say insider view, but the ringside view of how these companies operate. And I also like the way Matthew has kind of, portrayed all of these organizations. So thank you again for having me here. What I will do right now is I went through the book, in great detail. I will just pick out a couple of points which really resonated well with me. I will dwell upon that, give you all my perspective on those 2 points, and then we can, get into a fireside chat. Okay. I think the first one is, as Matthew outlines in his preface, okay, he's done a great job of saying everything that needed to be said about the organization and the founder in a, say it like it is. Okay. It is neither propagandist, nor does he take any side, nor does he talk about, what is right, what is wrong, but he's kind of laid it out beautifully, chronologically very well, and brings out the story beautifully. Okay. And in that, he's also managed to do one thing which is very relevant when you look at organizations today. Today, you look at most organizations through the founders, particularly in the digital era. Okay, there is this whole Elon Musk, and there is the Mark Zuckerberg, and there is the Sergey, and there is the Steve Jobs and stuff like those. Now, in this book, when I read through, I think Matthew has done a great job of balancing who the protagonist of the book is. Okay, I don't know whether it is the ByteDance which is the protagonist, or is it the Jiang Yiming who is the protagonist. Okay, which is a great balancing he's done, and I'm saying it's great because Jiang Yiming would have liked it that way. Okay, I don't think he would have, and I will talk about it a little later in the fireside chat, but then, he would not have wanted to overwhelm the organization. That is also one of the reasons many of you must have read recently that he stepped down as CEO at such an young age. Okay. So I think that's a great job done, Matthew. I think that's great thing. And probably, when we talk, you may want to throw a little bit more light on this. Okay. We can talk about it a little later. That is one very important aspect that I liked. The other aspect that I liked about this book is this overall, portrayal of entrepreneurship in China, okay, through the lens of ByteDance. It was again very beautifully handled. I must, talk about a conversation that I had with a very senior partner in one of the VC firms, Sequoia, actually. Okay, they have operations both in India and China. Okay, and in that conversation, this leader talked about his own views about, or his own observation about, India, entrepreneurs in India and China. Okay, he made a couple of points which are very nice, and those are also very well referenced in the book. Okay, the first thing he said was, you go to a Chinese. Okay, now Chinese entrepreneurs come with a business plan. Okay, they start with a business plan. Okay, whereas if you look at the Indian entrepreneurs, they come with product ideas. Okay, and he's saying it's a huge difference between the two. Obviously, he said the quality of ideas that come out of India is very strong. Okay, but therein lies the problem. You get fixated with the idea, and if the idea fails, your business has failed. Okay, whereas in China, people come up with a business plan, broadly saying, hey, this is the broad area I want to be in. And even if you look at the book, early stages of ByteDance, where Matthew says that they had about 12 app ideas before they decided which one to go with. Okay, so they broadly know what they want to do. They know this is the technology, this is the opportunity, but I probably do not know what the right product is. Okay, I will give myself all the time and I will build on it. Okay, I think that's a beautifully encapsulated entrepreneurship, mindset of China, which is one area where we as Indians need to learn. And I think that has been brought out very well in the book. The second aspect that is also, this VC friend of mine talked about was stamina, okay, and the commitment and the drive, okay. Chinese, they are all about going global, okay, not just in business, every walk of life, okay. And as all of us know, politically speaking, every which way, culturally speaking, they just want to go global, okay. And you will see it, there. And that has also been brought out very nicely. And I have, my own kind of musings on this, which is, if you look at some of the brands that India built, for example, Flipkart. My personal view is that Flipkart sold out too early. Okay, and I'll tell you why. 2010 or 11, I don't remember exactly which year, Yahoo was the a significant shareholders in Alibaba. Okay, Yahoo made an offer to Jack Ma to buy him out. Okay, Alibaba was still not the Alibaba of today. Okay, but Jack Ma knew what Alibaba could be. He fought tooth and nail, and he had the government support him. They stood firmly behind him, and he made a reverse offer to buy Yahoo back globally from China. And that was unthinkable in those days. Okay. But then he went ahead and did it. And finally, Yahoo's attempt to take over Alibaba did not materialize. And thankfully, it did not. And that is one of the reasons why Alibaba is where it is today. Okay. So that kind of stamina, I personally feel from this perspective, a Flipkart is a very early sellout. Okay. We probably had something much bigger in our hand. So Indian entrepreneurs tend to kind of sell out early. Similarly, going global. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled many airlines. I think Jet Airways is a fantastic airline. Okay. Now, I still do not understand. Of course, there are the politics behind it and stuff like those, and I don't want to get into it. But then brands like those that we've built, which has a global character, global capability, as a system, we don't have the ability to identify them and support them to become big. Okay. The systemic support that organizations get, and when I say system, I'm not just talking about government, I'm talking even about people. Chinese, wherever they go in the world, they use WeChat. Okay. They don't switch to WhatsApp. They switch to WhatsApp only if they are forced to. Okay. That is also in some sense systemic support. Okay. The systemic support that people get is another great thing. And Matthew again talks about it in his book. That's another great stuff. Okay. Of course, the other thing that I was very happy about was to read all the names of people with whom I worked very closely in TikTok, like the Blakes and the Lidongs and the Vanessas of the world. Having said that, Matthew, I also have a disappointment, and the disappointment is the fact that India operations was the crown jewel of TikTok outside of China. Okay. I wish you would cover that in your next book if you're going to write about TikTok anymore. Okay. Because we did so well, okay, and we did so well in so many spheres, and we can talk about it in the fireside chat as well, because we could reference some of those with the global stuff. So that's broadly my observation. I would like to stop here and leave it to Kriba to give us his perspective, but I do have a few points to talk about in our fireside chat, Matthew.
Kriba would like to come in. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, Captain. Excellent listening to Matthew and Naru. I want to start off by saying that I'm speaking to you from a remote farm in a very remote village, about 3 hours drive from Chennai. The reason why I tell you my location is that my internet speed here at this remote farm is higher than what I used to get in my residence in Virugambakam, Chennai. And this, for me personally, is an absolute game changer, because I've always dreamt of, I run an organic farm, I run a digital media company. So I would love to have the best of both worlds. And I'm using this as an analogy because 5G, when it comes in, and it's just a question of time, is going to be a massive game changer. Video is already the king of content. It's the most consumed one, and for all practical purposes, it is really our fast internet speed is what really helped companies like ByteDance and TikTok, or the Flipkart that Naru was talking about, all grow massively, because the infrastructure is already built on for these companies to piggyback and for their massive hockey stick growth. So while I speak to you for the next couple of minutes, one of the things that I truly want to bring to the forte is, while we listen to these conversations, I want you to also ask yourself, is this session really about TikTok, right? Actually, it isn't. This session is actually for you, for your business, for your startup, or for your company that you're working for. What are traits, what are techniques, what are these outlier ideas that you can pick and really apply on for your own benefit is what I would strongly encourage each one of you listening out here to be cognizant of. So one of the key things, I have a slightly inside view of this, because when TikTok got banned last year, there was a flurry of TikTokish kind of apps that really came in with a strong Indian flavor, wanting to occupy the massive space that TikTok, and I was one of them. I co-founded a company called 60 Seconds in the short format game. And so I got an inside view of what it is about. And here are my key takeaways. And the first one is videos. Like I said, it's going to be the king. I don't know if you already know this, but the world's largest search engine is Google. Can you guess what the second world's largest search engine is? It's none of the other search engines. It is actually YouTube. So video is already out there to win, and internet speeds is only going to quicken that pace. The second one is really the attention span. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I have a front row seat of what the life of youngsters are. And I can tell you that their attention span is just insanely short. My daughters, I don't think they ever enjoy watching a feature film, a film that is about 2 hours or 2.5 hours. They just don't have the patience. They're also attuned to watching short format videos. At best would be Netflix series of a half-hour duration or 45-minute duration. So that's also another interesting trend that, and every time you notice that when these kids actually watch these short format, they get these doses of hits, these dopamine shots they get, and it really gets them addicted, right? And these companies like TikToks of the world also have mastered the art of that dopamine shots. They know what sort of video has caught the fancy of the viewer, which videos they don't like. Like Matthew said, if you don't like, they would swipe immediately, and that's a valuable analytics feedback to the company. And if you spend a longer time, it means that you enjoy that. If you interact, if you start to like, that's an additional loyalty points that you would give. If you start to comment, that's an even higher loyalty points that you would give. So it's very easy for companies to really dissect and find out what your interest, and then accordingly on the fly in real time, they would start changing the algorithm and then line up the videos that capture your attention. If you notice the way how people consume apps like TikTok or any short format videos, actually you really don't decide what you want to watch. You may get into TikTok and probably search, or even YouTube, you probably want to search, but immediately you're gotten into a rabbit hole. The decision for what you want to watch is actually made by the company itself. The app decides what you want to watch, and because they keep giving you content that you like, you continue to keep watching that. I mean, it's just shocking, right? I mean, for a world in which the attention span is so goddamn short, I mean, we're talking about 12 seconds. Recent reports say that it's down to 8 seconds. With such short attention span, my goodness, the average time that an Indian spends on the mobile is 4.6 hours in a day. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Right? We're talking about, on one hand, that you can't tolerate long, boring videos, but you end up watching for close to 5 hours. So I think that's amazing. And this also has spawned another format. Now our mobile phones have become a part of our human anatomy, right? So if you suddenly, if you don't find your phone out there, and you get a half heart attack, right? And your life only comes back to normalcy when you can find your phone. So because this device is almost with us almost all times, including when we sleep, the way how we consume content has also changed, right? So you prefer watching vertical videos. The biggest muscle that you use is really your thumb for you. So that's also something for us to be cognizant of, because as entrepreneurs, as product heads or as marketeers, we have to understand this is the way how the world is gravitating towards to. This is the habit that people have gotten used to. So how do we now make sure that our marketing messages, our product messages, how do we tune that to the way how people want to have? So these are things that we have to do. And but let me also tell you, there's a dark side to this. If there's ever a biggest proponent of digital, it's me. The year that I graduated was in 1995 from engineering, and 1995 was also the year that internet was introduced. I fell head over heels over to the power of internet, and over the last 2 decades plus, I've made this my passion. I made this my profession. I've been a professor teaching digital to B schools. I'm a professional speaker on digital. So I'm sold, right? I truly believe in this medium. But I can also tell you that, apps like TikTok, they just dull your brain like crazy. When I see my daughters sit on apps, short format apps, I really, really worry for them. Seriously, not just for them, for the entire generation. And many of us have fallen victim to that as well. Because the greatest people, you look at the most successful people that we admire, people we look up to, the biggest billionaires and millionaires out there, they're all creators, right? They sit down, they tinker out there, and they really create. But sadly, many of us become zombies, staring into our screens and just consuming content mindlessly. So I just want to just close my talk on a slightly somber note, but hopefully with a silver lining. Is I think we should encourage our kids to become creators and not just become just mute spectators and just consumers, just brain dead consumers of content. And hopefully we all become better at the end of the day. So that's about my end. Thank you so much, and over to you, Captain.
Now I request you both panelists to start your conversation with the thing. We got another 10-15 minutes for you. At 7 o'clock sharp, we'll bring in all the questions what I received from various social media portals. Maybe Naru, you can ask your conversation with Matthew, then Kripa, let's make it a 5-side chat. Okay, Naru. You're unmute again. Sorry, Naru, unmute yourself.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kripa. Thank you again. I actually had this question for the last, okay? But for the sake of continuity, where Kripa left off, I thought I'll probably ask you this question first. Matthew, this refers to your penultimate chapter called The Cringe, right? Now, in Cringe, you kind of quote the Swedish gamer, okay? Where he goes on and he talks about, I'll just read just 2 lines, where he says, TikTok was bizarre, an endless stream of people posting weird content with almost a total lack of self-awareness, and it goes on, okay? In some sense, you talk about, the kind of content, quality content, etc. One could have a different kind of take on it, okay? One take is to say that, hey, sometimes all of us in real life also do flippant things. That does not mean we are flippant people, right? That is also part of life. That could be one take. The other take is, hey, this is for doing flippant things. Okay, it could be the other take. So my question to you is, after having spent so much time researching TikTok, and in the process, you must have researched the people also who are consuming, Are you seeing this as a short-term fad that is going to fade away? Or do you see this being something that is going to stay? What do you think is your view? And in some sense, if you could just, dimensionalize it with what Kriba said, is it actually dulling people, or is there anything more to it than dulling somebody's mind?
When you say this, you mean like short form video?
Yes.
Or TikTok in particular? Or okay, short form video. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just broadly equating short form video to TikTok. Okay, so in some sense, both.
Sure. Yeah, I mean the actual term short form video is a little bit nebulous as well, right? So it's never really been satisfactorily defined, but especially as platforms like YouTube actually become more like TikTok, and TikTok actually the content becomes longer and longer and becomes more like YouTube, let's say. So the barrier gets blurred. But is this content here to stay? Is this format here to stay? Is essentially a question. And yeah, I think so. I broadly believe the China market to be ahead on this trend compared to nearly every other global market by somewhere between a year to 18 months, something in that range. Given that short video, China is the home of short video, I think we can say that, and it's also a fast-moving market, right? So actually, the speed at which things evolve digitally is in China relatively fast. So given that, China's kind of a window into the future for the longevity of this format, and actually we see in China it's actually still going up, I believe. Up in terms of engagement, time spent, and overall DAU, MAU, user numbers. So those metrics are still going up. It's not super fast like it was 2 years ago. The law of big numbers means there's only so many users in China, and the last numbers that were officially released is something like 600 million daily active users in China. So there's actually not much headroom left in a market like China. But when we look at the numbers on, say, I'm familiar with Western markets, there was some data released by App Annie on the time spent in TikTok per user in America now has flipped between TikTok and YouTube. So then you look at the graph, it's still going like fairly strong growth still. Because the thing that the average people don't realize, us on the panel, we seem to be like very familiar industry insiders with the internet industry, but actually most people don't realize that actually even a blockbuster platform like TikTok or Facebook, it takes many years for actually it to get, for it to actually really top out in terms of user numbers, right? So especially when it's a global product. So TikTok is still, even though everyone's familiar with it and it seems like it's been with us for a while, it's still got, I think, several years of very, very strong growth in the bank here globally. And it's only going to really start to top out maybe in, I don't know, say 3 years, let's say, something like that. It's still on that growth curve in terms of user numbers and engagement, time spent. And going back to the point rightfully brought up earlier about what does that mean for addiction? What does that mean for our attention spans? These are it's not good if you're concerned about that. Yeah, shall we say?
Yeah, I just would like to add one point because I have an inside view on these things. Okay. Mm-hmm. While Kriba's point is well founded, but I would also say that in some sense, what happens is, we've done analysis of audiences on the platform. Okay. There's a big difference between a new audience who comes in and the time he or she spends in the first 1 week versus the second, third, or fourth week. For a period of time, the first week, it's all about, like a bull in China shop. You go there, you don't know which one you want to hit. Okay. You touch everything, you fall. And, finally, after a week, you realize, which are the kind of contents you want to go after. And in some sense, most people settle with their own favorite genre of content. Okay. If you look at TikTok when it was alive, in India during the last days, when I used to make pitches to client, interestingly, education was the largest piece of content that was accessed from TikTok. It may sound surprising, okay, but education was what it was, okay. So that kind of stuff. So yes, there are issues. We can talk about it a little later, but then over a period of time, things settle, and there are people indeed who are making good use of not just TikTok, all forms of internet possibilities that are available in front of us today.
Yeah, I think EduTalk was a big thing that they pushed, a big program, especially in India. And
right.
My friends who are PMs were talking to me about that many years ago. EduTalk, this is the new thing, especially for India. And in many ways, TikTok's just a reflection of your own content preferences. So if we say that, people want this, they don't want education, they just want mindless entertainment. The platform just reflects back your own preferences to you, right? It's actually a neutral algorithm in that respect. It says more about the people. But you're right to point out that actually there is educational content actually does work really well. That in short form format, you can have these bite-sized lessons. It's a very popular content format, and it works very well actually. And so for those people who want to learn for the platform and are interested in self-improvement, there is that option there for sure, and it's actually very popular.
Yeah, not just education, health, fitness, cookery, stuff like those. They're still there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I wanna address the elephant in the room, and since both of you have inside information of TikTok, and I know that TikTok has been a victim of international politics, do you ever see TikTok coming back to India? Matthew,
I think Naru would probably know more than I do. I mean, my guess would be no. I think it seems to be, to me as an outsider, mostly a political issue. But I look at it through the lens of China and knowing what's happened in that market, where they have sort of had protectionist policies, which were mostly for other reasons. They're mostly actually for control of information is why they did it. But it had this big side benefit, which was actually fostering the local ecosystem of companies and getting them to a scale where they could start to compete with Silicon Valley. And I think this kind of policy of essentially booting out foreign competition will have this very large side benefit. And so my guess would be that once you start doing that, you realize, okay, this could be actually a good policy for us, and we'll keep it. But I'm very much an outsider, so I'd love to hear what you both think as well.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have an insider view on this. I must say it up front. Okay. Because these are boardroom conversation, and these are boardroom, not Beijing, but New York conversation. Because TikTok, as you know, there's two organizations. There's TikTok China and there's TikTok International. ByteDance China, ByteDance International. India falls under ByteDance International. So that's a boardroom conversation. But having said that, there are a couple of things. One is, if you want to be a global player in the digital space outside of China, India is a market that you cannot not be in. Okay, you have to be in India. Okay, so that's one thing. And from that point of view, I think ByteDance will come back. In what shape and form, I don't know. Okay, maybe it'll come back as TikTok or whatever. Needs to come back. So that's one very important stuff. The second thing is, even if it comes back, to create a platform like TikTok, like Matthew has written in his book, is not just a platform. It's building of an ecosystem. Okay, the fundamental difference between a YouTube and a TikTok was YouTube started out as a broadcast medium. Okay, whereas TikTok was a user-generated content medium, okay, which essentially meant that the entire content stuff which got demolished in the last 6 or 7 months, or more than 7, close to a year of TikTok being away, needs to be built, and that will take about 3 or 4 years for them to come back. Okay, so even if it comes back, it is going to take some time. But my personal view is that they will come back, and I also hear, these are all grapevine stories, that the new CEO, okay, who is now taken over from Jiang Yiming, is a very pro-India guy. Okay, and that he wants to come back. So let's wait and watch.
Got it.
Yeah, my take on it would be, definitely ByteDance wants to come back, absolutely. And you're right saying, India is a must if you want to be a really global company. But I think ultimately it's India's choice, not ByteDance's choice, right? Of if they come back, it's kind of out of their hands, I guess. But like, there could be ways. You're right. I mean, they could set up a new Indian, sell 51% to a local player, something like that. So yeah, it's possible.
Or if the government changes.
That's
Yeah, in India.
Anyway, good. Do you have any question for Matthew, or I have something to ask?
I have one question, which is, what motivated you to author the book? Because I know that Chinese companies are very, very close. They keep their cards very close. They don't really openly talk about how the company runs or how the. So how did you manage to get the inside info, and what was your motivation behind the book?
Yeah, you're right. So the motivation was simply the product itself, being a user and early user relatively, globally. So I've been Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, as a user since 2017, and a sort of heavy user since late 2017, sort of Spring Festival 2018. So fairly early. And seeing how it was transforming society and the power of this app, it really was a blockbuster. I think in China there's many very, very impressive internet products, but I think there's two that are on a sort of super level, like super app level. One of them's WeChat and one of them's Douyin. So I think it was on a WeChat level of transforming society, and then when it started to go global, They hired a lot of people I knew, and some of my close friends were sort of trying to bring this experience international. And I was having conversations with them, on a regular basis, and getting. At the time, I didn't think I was going to be writing a book about this, so it was happening very naturally. We were just both very interested in talking about this and understanding it. And then later on, I just, we always thought it had that potential, but you don't really think of what the consequences are. It's kind of like you see it, but you don't think about, is it really going to transform the world? And then it actually happened, right? They actually did, change the world, essentially. TikTok is a big part of a lot of people's lives all around the world now, and it's really transforming culture in so many different countries. So seeing that transformation is so inspirational. Originally, I was going to put together a book that was covering 4 companies. I was going to be covering, the sort of Chinese, the big companies like Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, and Huawei actually was the other one. And we started working on that, and then, but ByteDance just became, it was just so natural. It was just like so natural for me to be like, okay, I just, for the research and everything, I was like, this is the company to focus on. This is the one, forget about these other guys. Like ByteDance is the one that's really going to be, is really interesting right now. So it just flew from that. With the stuff I write, it's always been very sort of like passion driven in that respect of like, I'm interested in it. So I'm fairly sure that other people will be. And then for sources, fortunately, there is a vast, I would say a lot of interviews that the founder's done. Zheng Yimin has done a lot of interviews, but nearly all of them are in Chinese. And virtually none of them have ever made it out of China. So I had a good bank of resources there. I had my own sort of personal knowledge, and then like I've just over the years built up a pretty good skill set of like digging online and finding information and doing original research and finding out things. Like the book got launched in China, for example, and all of those early apps of ByteDance, the 12 or 15 apps that they launched in the first year. That was actually fresh information. Like people in China were like, oh wow, like nobody ever thing. But that information was waiting for people to find online in little places. I was the first one to put it together and actually, you know, make it public. This was actually it. This is what they did in the first year. So things like that. Like fortunately, this company's big enough in China that there is a lot of stuff to find out. So there's a combination of different places you can find this stuff, but most of the sources are Chinese for this book. Yeah, without speaking Chinese and knowing where to look and having all that experience in China, there's no way I could have written this. So that's fortunately I was in the right place at the right time.
Super. Thank you, Matthew.
Great. If you have no questions, may move on to the social media. I think the chat box we are yet to get, I think not starting, but I got a lot of questions from YouTube. We have over 600 plus viewers are watching the program live now. And we have received some questions from the YouTube and Facebook viewers. I will place it before you. And thanks for the great insights from three really people who have got a first-hand information on the subject. And I'm quite sure the viewers watching the program, viewers who are going to watch over the next few months, I think will immensely benefit. Here's the first question from Mr. Vikram from Bangalore. What do you want to know is, this question addressed to Matthew. How was a Chinese startup able to seize the lucrative short video markets in the West? None of the other Chinese companies could pull off such a global expansion and success. How could TikTok achieve such a global success? And we also want to know how TikTok have achieved better adoption by the client, and what the lesson you would like to share it with the people who would like to be in the same field like TikTok.
Yeah, sure. So take the first part. Why TikTok? Why ByteDance was the one to break out from China? It's simply because what I heard from the PMs, and I would totally agree with this, is that there actually wasn't much competition when they started going internationally in markets, you know, originally in Asian markets, right? So the first markets that TikTok went into were places like Vietnam, Thailand, South Korea, and Japan. Early on, they found out that, Musical.ly was around, but Musical.ly actually was, you know, quite a different seed user group and quite a different culture and ecosystem there. And then they already having the success in China and already having that sort of back-end infrastructure built in, they actually had quite a different product by then already, and there was nothing like it. Comparing it to the popular social media platforms that were the leading ones at the time and still are, you know, today, like Instagram would, you know, probably be number one there, I think. And Instagram is, you know, a very successful product. I don't want to talk it down too much, but like it's completely different, you know, ecosystem and vibe, and just offering a very different user experience to something like TikTok. Whereas if you take Tencent, for example, you know, they failed in global international expansion in 2013 because they were trying to globalize WeChat. A mega success in China in the same way that Douyin was. But WeChat, you know, by the time it had already come out, it's already competing with other messaging platforms, predominantly WhatsApp. Now, WeChat has a lot of functionality that WhatsApp doesn't have, but that's all built upon the core user experience of messaging. Messaging is the foundation. And so you start with messaging and then you layer everything on top of that. But they couldn't really get in with messaging, you know, in a market like India. WhatsApp already got a network effect. And if, you know, for a product that's built for China, it can't really offer much to other markets around the world. It's also, you know, already moving in a direction that's very China focused. There was many other reasons. That's just a gross simplification there, but that's the most famous example. But to boil that down is essentially that TikTok's offering something new. You know, it was an innovation, and it was an innovation that hadn't happened yet in Silicon Valley. Whereas before, I think most of the Alibaba, you know, they're doing marketplace e-commerce, Tencent's doing gaming and things like that, but it's all stuff that's already there. They're not offering anything that's a big breakthrough in terms of a new category or a truly new engaging experience that wasn't being there, but TikTok was. So I think that's the biggest reason why it was able to go. And then plus, you know, they spent a lot of money, right? They were very aggressive, and so that, you know, and they were executing very well. So and ByteDance is a very international company in terms of its leadership. So lots of other reasons as well.
Excellent, Matthew. Execution is really the key thing for success of any of their. Here's a question from Mr. Murali from Chennai again. What he wants to know is, who are the people behind the seemingly simple app that has taken over the world? How does it legendary TikTok algorithm work, and how much the Chinese technology space does it developer ByteDance control? He also wants to know what is the lesson from the TikTok for social media video content creators, and two most important lessons which you may like to share it with them.
Sorry, can you say that question again? It cut out a little bit here. I didn't quite get it. Sorry, can you say again?
I'll repeat the question. It's a long question. There are two parts to the question. The first part is, who are the people behind this seemingly simple app that has taken over the world? How does the legendary TikTok algorithm work? I don't think I can answer this, but you can make an attempt to this. How much of the Chinese technology space does its developer ByteDance control? He also wanted you to explain what is a lesson from TikTok for social media video content creators, and two most important lessons what they should be following.
Okay, so you've got like 4 questions in there. Okay. Okay, I got it.
Matthew,
Sorry, my guys are greedy to learn as much as
Matthew, I can answer the first question.
Yes, please go ahead now.
Yeah, go ahead. It shouldn't be just me. Yeah, go ahead.
Buy the book and read it for yourself. You know the people behind.
That's the idea. Absolutely true. That's the idea.
Now you can take the second, third, and the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, the people, there's an interesting point to be made about the people, actually, there is that TikTok actually doesn't have a founder in the traditional sense of a founder, in terms of, you know, the founder of Facebook, we all know as Mark Zuckerberg, you know, the founder of WhatsApp, there's, you know, Jan Klom, I think it is, and I forget the other guy. But there's, you know, with TikTok, it actually, there's founders of Musical.ly, right? There's 2 founders there. There's a founder of ByteDance, which is Zheng Yimin, and we talk about him a lot in the same. But actually, TikTok as a product doesn't have a founder. And so that's an interesting thing that, you know, it speaks pretty well to the company ByteDance that there isn't a founder, because actually how TikTok arose wasn't like some visionary within the company. It wasn't an individual, a brilliant individual like WeChat has Alan Zhang, who came up with this, no, we're doing TikTok. No, it was a systematic process in the company of experimentation. That they were, at the time, they were saying, okay, we want to move into short video. So we're going to create our version of YouTube. We're going to create our version of Kuaishou. We're going to create a version of Musical.ly. And then we're going to have them evolve and see where they go in different directions. But that's a very logical and systematic process. The original name for the book was actually not Attention Factory. It was App Factory. And App Factory is a very common sort of nickname for TikTok in China. It's not very used outside China, but in China, it's very well known. And that speaks to the fact that it's sort of a factory, that the production line system that ByteDance has built, where they can actually create new products, create new apps continuously, and spin up very fast the ones that succeed. And so for the future of a company like this, it's actually pretty good. When you think about it, you know, that's much more in terms of, you know, the sustainability of their business and moving forward years into the future, of not relying on brilliant individuals, but actually having processes in place in order to actually to create new products and innovate. I think is really speaks well. If you know, when they do go public, you know, I would recommend that, you know, ByteDance a fairly strong company to buy shares in. I think they're very well run. And got a bright future beyond just TikTok. But we got some other questions. What that speaks to the people, I think, right?
Yes. You almost covered everything, and you want to know 2 most important lessons which you may like to share to the content creators.
Lessons for content creators. There are some tips and tricks like that. I think we cover in the book a little bit, but some things that people don't know about how the algorithm works and stuff like that. Like it's very important that you actually, if you're a content creator on TikTok, that you actually stick to one type of content, and that you actually the system needs to learn and trust your account over some time, especially in the early days. So people often make the mistake of like making videos about this, and then they start making videos about that, and then they're shooting content at home with their kids, and then they learn it, and then they start doing something more regularly, and that completely confuses TikTok about what your account actually is about, right? So that's one of the things. So like, is that staying within a vertical category is actually quite important. It can evolve over time, but that's definitely a tip, I would say. Today, there's a lot of enthusiasm in China around content creators and e-commerce on the platform as well. And I think that's something we really haven't talked about today, but is a really big trend moving forward for like, what's the future of short form video content? It's actually e-commerce. If you speak to people in China, that's what they're excited about. And I think that's something that could be very interesting for creators and businesses all over, in India and all over the world.
Excellent. We have an interesting question from Mr. Hari from Bangalore. This is again addressed to Matthews. He says, so what's your experience of working in China for such a long years? And can you just share us what's the work environment, innovation, and how they promote entrepreneurship, and what are the copyright issues? We always talk about the copyright patent violation is predominantly popular in China. So what's your view on that, sir?
I think from living and working in China for so many years, I'm very impressed with Chinese work ethic and the entrepreneurial spirit in the country. The fact is, things have changed. Life has changed so rapidly for Chinese people in such a short period of time that it leads to an overall sense of optimism in society. People believe that tomorrow will be much better than today, broadly, and that there's an opportunity to get rich. Chinese are already, well known for being good business people for many centuries, and you look at sort of Singapore as a good example of like ethnic Chinese going abroad and doing well, but combine that with the internet, and you sort of like it's sort of a once in a generation or once in a century opportunity here, because the internet actually had a far bigger impact on Chinese society than it did in many other countries. I think India might be an exception there. India's obviously, the internet is also having a huge impact. But when we compare it with Western markets, everything in terms of business is actually quite mature already by the time the internet comes along. The amount of more space, square meter more space per citizen in Western developed economies is actually very high already. Most of the needs of consumers are being fulfilled already, and the internet still has a big impact. Whereas in a place like China, it just really it was so revolutionary. You saw this new wave of entrepreneurs, and it really is just so inspiring for a lot of people. I think that's dying down now, though. In society, and things are actually changing in China again quite rapidly. There's recently a lot of regulation coming in. I think things are maturing. I think growth is slowing down. I think we're entering a new stage in the China story, and we'll have to see where it takes us, because it's right now it's not so clear where things are heading.
Thank you. We got another 5 minutes. I'll try and squeeze in as many questions as possible before we let you go. And here's a question from Mr. Sriram from Chennai. He says, the ease of doing business in China, why it is tough for the world to compete with China in terms of the price? And you can also share about the views of the quality. There's always a doubt in the mind of the people when they buy a Chinese product. Why the situations happen to China, and how they are overcoming this situation at present?
Sorry, say that again. No, they worry about the product, the quality of the buying Chinese products.
Yes, yes.
Can I answer this question?
Yes, Naru, please.
Yeah, okay, because I've worked with some really large Chinese corporates, okay? Some of them global, some of them Chinese, etc. For example, one company I worked very closely with is Qualcomm, okay? Qualcomm based in China. Qualcomm is actually a San Diego based, microchip manufacturer. They're in China, so I understand the microchip industry, and hence I know the biggest competition for them was Huawei, okay? Now, if you look at mobile phones, for example, okay, today, every aspect of mobile phone that we buy today is manufactured in China. From the small buttons to the case, to the touch screen, to the antenna that goes inside, to the modem that goes inside, to the microchip, okay? So they have a value advantage across the entire building up of a mobile phone, which is, now tomorrow, if let's say, for example, when Samsung or when let's say Xiaomi wanted to build their own mobile phones in India, about 60% of the component that goes into building of the mobile phone needed to be imported. Okay, that gives us a cost disadvantage, and hence the cost advantage or disadvantage is not because of quality. It is essentially because these guys have built an entire ecosystem for production. Okay, so that is one important thing. Second thing is what Matthew talked about, which is the work ethics. Okay, Tim Cook once said that not that nobody can manufacture iPhones anywhere else in the world, but we can't find so many people to build of such high quality under one roof as we get in China. Okay, so their ability to get quality labor at that scale, okay, is something that's unmatchable. Okay, we have every country in the world has a long distance to go on this front. I would say these are the two reasons why they remain and they will remain competitive for a long time. I think this whole concept of Chinese being cheap and duplicate and all of those things, I would say we have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Totally agree with you. Excellent. I think I'll take two last questions. And one question is Mr. Ravi, and he's an MBA student. He says, sir, one of the speakers said, the idea is they keep focusing on idea all the time. And whereas China come out with a good business plan and they take it forward, they're able to attract investors, they're able to really work on the ecosystem and bring it. How can you change the mindset of the people in India startup to really focus on this? Maybe I request each one of you to dwell just for a few seconds. How can we change this mindset in India? People start focusing on the business plan and how we can grow the business and how we can convert idea into a great business opportunity.
I mean, I think it comes down to, part of it is, why do Chinese focus on business plan? It's definitely a mindset that comes in throughout the entire ecosystem. Partly it's due to the volatility in the market, right? That things actually move very fast in China, and suddenly the idea that you thought was going to work yesterday, you need to pivot quite fast. That's actually very, very common. So there needs to be that flexibility built into ideas and plans. Just naturally, that's accepted across society, I think across all industries. Chinese are much more comfortable with that uncertainty and volatility that, certainly where I come from in the UK, most people were very uncomfortable with that. We like to sit down and plan, but they, plan things to a degree and take a lot of time to think things through, whereas Chinese just want to do it, right? They just got, okay, we're moving into this area, and this is sort of biased towards action and working things out as you go along. Whereas I think what you're referring to in India of being product focused is more sort of like having this idea that, there's this sort of thing, this product needs to be built. And entrepreneurs, yes, you do need to be product focused. I think that's really, an important aspect. But we find actually in China, there's not that many product centric big success stories. WeChat's definitely one of them. WeChat team are very product focused, but they're actually kind of an anomaly. A lot, and within the local market, you look at, companies like Alibaba, they're very operations focused. and operations is about execution. And it's not really about tailoring this perfect product. So there's a different mindset in the market over, like, when you look at the successful case studies and the companies that people look up to, a lot of them, their success clearly doesn't come from building the best product or having very product-focused people. It comes from having the strongest execution on the ground and being able to move fast and change things. Maybe a little bit, like Facebook, move fast and break things. But so when these are the successful case studies, naturally people gravitate towards that way of thinking. I think so. That's part of it. So I think Indian players should look at I think there's something to be said around, if they want to follow the Chinese way, look at take some of that mindset perhaps.
Okay. Now I would like to add, then I'll come to Kripa and come to the end of the.
Yeah, I would say I have two things to say about this question. The first thing is why change? Okay, we are the way we are. Now, if Chinese are exporting brands, we are exporting people. Today, head of Google, head of Microsoft, head of Adobe, they're all Indians, right? Now, if you're good at it, how can we send more such great, best managerial talent across the globe are Indians? So we continue to focus on those and continues to build those capabilities. Understand your strength and play to your strength is one thing I would say. Now, having said that, I would also say another thing, which is, I think sometimes we get stuck with ideals, okay? Ideals means fixation. We become Puritans and that's not practical. Okay, so how do we become a little more practical? And to Matthew's point, which is operational means, when I work on PNG works on two simple principles. They say scale and simplicity. Okay, and both go hand in hand. So in everything we do, if we start thinking scale and simplicity, instead of looking at how great is my idea, we end up spending so much time in boardroom discussions. We don't try to simplify. I've never come across a meeting where they'll say, hey, let's cut the crap and let's talk about what needs to be done. Very few meetings get into that level. So we just need to kind of, work on that front to see how do we talk less, work more, execute more, stay focused on scale and simplicity. I would say the other side. Those are my two simple suggestions.
Brilliant, brilliant. Ability to take risk and execution. Maybe Kripa, you would like to add?
Yeah, I think as Indians, we speak from our heart. There's, I think, we think a lot from what we really love, and I would lesser on, hey, does it make monetary sense? And so that's one. The second one is also, I completely agree with Matthew. It's got to do with mindset. Just the same way how folks in Silicon Valley, when they build a product for the world. Sometimes we out here in India, we tend to box ourselves into like a frog in a well. I think the more we expose ourselves to international markets and international people, I have a feeling that mindset will change. Yeah.
Brilliant. I agree with you. I think for anything, everything you do, why entrepreneurship, the mindset matters. Your intention, mindset, that will only take you to places. I think there's one gentleman is pestering me to ask this last final question. I'll take the liberty to do that. I got another minute to go before we close. Is Shukla from Mumbai. What do you want to know is, sir, you mentioned the lower the barrier, the content creation is the success of TikTok, and why YouTube is not adopting the simplicity, and why we struggle so much to upload YouTube videos. Any reasons why they're not able to adapt to simplicity in YouTube?
I think they are trying to move towards that, right? That YouTube Shorts is definitely, very heavily inspired by TikTok, and I think that will probably do quite okay. I would think, YouTube has a big traffic pool, and I'm sure that they can make that a success. But just inherently, with YouTube, you're steering this huge ship, right? And it's like this huge tanker already. It's such a big product, such an old product, and so successful with so many users that you're trying to shift it to a different direction is super difficult. Even if they want to, and they've got buy-in at a higher level, it's inherently a desktop product. The YouTube videos are horizontal; they're not vertical. It's built from the desktop era, and it takes all that baggage with it. of all, how things work on the platform. That's not mobile first. It's, it's adapted to mobile. It still works well, and YouTube is fine, but it does mean that it's got that barrier to content creation, and there's it's difficult to break that down.
Thank you so much. We almost come to the end of the session, and I'm quite sure we'll soon have a TikTok movement. May not be TikTok, something similar to TikTok will come, because Indians are obsessed with short videos, and I'm quite sure there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of things also which we have to unlearn to make it thing, because it has also done some social issues which has come up. So I that's one of the reasons government said they're not permitting it. There's much more reason to that, and our topic for discussion not that. Thanks, Matthew, for really choosing MMA to come and speak and launch your book. I am quite sure a lot of viewers watching this book we left with so many questions, which I'm quite sure they'll buy the book and read them and get inspired. Kripa, as usual, is fantastic listening to you all the time. Look forward to seeing you more in MMA. Naru, thanks again. It's great to meet you and get connected to you. Look forward again working with you. And as a token of our appreciation, first let me thank a large number of viewers watching this program. If any of your friends and colleagues and contacts missed this evening program, not to worry. Please share the YouTube content with them, and Facebook or our webinar is there. They can watch it anytime. I'm quite sure we are going to publish small little article about this with the embedded video in our digital business magazine. You all know MMA digital magazine is almost reached over 80,000 plus people read that with state of art technology which we use on embedded videos, and quite a number of facilities are there in that MMA magazine. We look forward to reading that, and as a token of our appreciation, Matthew, for choosing MMA to come and do the book. Thanks to Sweta too, and we would like to present the face mask and the mini sanitizers. This is what we do. Our team goes around present on behalf of you, because this we thought we can do it on behalf of you. This is the only way of conveying our gratitude to you for having taken your time and sparing your valuable time to come and share your knowledge with the people, and I'm quite sure it will really inspire them. Our guys, we also do quite a bit of vaccination drives. We give rations, we give them food. We adopt the entire community around MMA, so we are able to live happily and make other people also live happily. Thanks so much to each one of you once again. Matthew, look forward to seeing you when you visit next time Chennai, the Madras, and Kripa. Get back to Chennai soon. Otherwise, we'll come to Dindivanam to visit your farm. Naru, great to meet you. We meet you. Let's catch up one of the days. And all the viewers watching the program live, and stay safe, stay healthy. And if you're not taken your jab, please go and take your vaccine, which is very, very important, because today we are come to endemic, no more pandemic. We have to live with it. Keep coming and attend the events in MMA. We follow very strict social media protocols, social distancing protocols, and many more. Thanks so much. Thanks to all the viewers, and thanks to each one of the speakers for sparing your valuable time in joining this evening. Bye-bye. Till we meet again. Good night.